I'm Tom Moore. I'm one of the three co-founders of Cartoon Saloon. Myself, Nora Toomey and Paul Young were part of the original group that founded the studio back in 1999. We set the studio up here in Kilkenny because I'd been a member of Young Irish Filmmakers here in Kilkenny and I grew up here. And so then it started to become kind of an advantage rather than a disadvantage to be here in Kilkenny. And I think it's a really lovely spot for people. We have people from all over the world to come to live and work here. And I think they really appreciate that. It's outside the big metropolises and it has its own kind of mini version of a big city going on with great culture, great music, a great sort of social scene, and yet it's still pretty small. So the studio really thrives for being located here in Kilkenny, I think. Yeah, folklore is the future is a good theme. It's an interesting theme, and I hope it's true. I think it's true. We've definitely drawn on folklore a lot. I mean, there's the Irish Folklore Trilogy, which is probably the main thing people think about with the studio. But it's also true that we kind of have an interest in general in storytelling and how stories kind of are like so important to how we remember and how we appreciate each other and our environment and our surroundings. So I think there's a lot of inspiration to be taken from folklore. I always say that for the trilogy we kind of went on a shopping trip and went through, there's so much folklore we couldn't have even imagined in a 3 careers, 3 lifetimes, 5, 10 lifetimes you wouldn't touch it all. So we had to go and kind of pick and choose and take from it and find some kind of truths in that folklore that we felt were still interesting for young people today and general audiences today. And I think there's something about whenever anybody from any culture looks into their own authentic folklore and their own culture and their own backgrounds and use that as a kind of a basis to tell a universal story, it has this really interesting effect because it makes it very unique and very personal and very interesting for people who aren't from that culture. And on the other side, there's something universal about the human experience that's captured in this folklore. And so I can watch a movie from Japan, for example, like some of the works of Hayao Miyazaki. He uses Japanese folklore a lot. And I'm interested and intrigued by this whole other world, this other universe, this way of seeing the world. And yet at the same time, there's a human emotional element that feels very close to home. So I think it has this amazing ability when you use folklore to have something very at once personal and also universal. For Design Week, we're really happy to be involved. I'm going to do a talk with Ross Stewart, who was my co-director on Wolfwalkers and was the art director on our first film, Secret of Kells, with concept artist on Song of the Sea. So he's been involved in the design aspect of all 3 of our Folklore Trilogy films. And we're also doing an exhibition of the Folklore Trilogy scene illustrations, which are like the main images from the movie that we draw before we even start animation to kind of design what the movie will look like. So I think it should be quite interesting for people. Like there's a lot of different disciplines of design involved in Design Week, so I'm glad that animation is part of it and glad we can be part of it, yeah.